And we have a guest on the phone, Mr. Bill Tarleton, who I understand, Bill, you live in West and you volunteer to be a first responder.
I've been a first responder for several years, and I do volunteer and associated with the West EMS and Abbott Volunteer Fire Department from time to time when needed. Yeah.
And tell us how you helped out tonight.
When we heard the explosion, I went to the scene and just offered my assistance in any way possible through the EMS part of it, and as well as I'm also I work with many of the school districts around here, so we work in getting resources and offering to open school districts for patients or whatever needed evacuees if necessary.
What did you see when you first got there?
It's an extremely intense flame. It's a very, very bad fire. A lot of damage in the several block area. I parked over at the high school and walked toward. There was one injured firefighter that we assisted and loaded him on the ambulance. And I visited with other firefighters there who had fellow firefighters that could not get out.
I'm so sorry, Bill. Did you can you describe to us just the extent of the severity of those injuries that you saw?
Well, after we could not get to some of the firefighters that were involved in the initial explosion, so we assisted with the others. They moved us to a football field, and there were a lot of what are sometimes referred to as walking wounded. There were a lot of dazed and confused folks, a lot from the nursing home, and it was, I would call it controlled chaos. I mean, it was a lot of activity, but getting people where they needed to be, doing the triage and all that sort of thing. And I know there were a lot of critical injuries. I worked with some of the more minor ones, and then that's when I started working with the facilities issue and trying to get man-powered school buses and that sort of thing to the scene if needed.
Bill, I know this must be so tough for you seeing this in a community that you live in where it's so tight-knit. All these people that you helped, and even some that you said you could not reach, did and do you know any of them personally?
No, I knew the names, but the ones that were mentioned to me that we know of, that they knew of, that they told me, I did not know them personally. I heard their names and knew of them, but did not know them personally.
And you said that you helped initially in moving some of these injured. Was it to that football field that was initially set up as the triage center? Describe that.
That's where I went. A lot of them had already been moved there by the time I got there. We were just helping assist them once they got there.
What kind of medical?
I did not actually move any of them from the scene. Where I was on the scene was too intense to get close to.
What kind of medical help did you give to the folks you could reach?
The ones that I dealt with were relatively minor care. Some of the nursing homes, again, dazed and confused, and minor cuts and scrapes. And I mean, there's a lot of lacerations, and that's about what I dealt with at that point.
And these were folks among the 133 who were residents of the West Rest Haven, is that correct?
Yes.
We had been hearing initial reports that people might have been trapped there at first, and that it took volunteers like yourself and first responders to get them out. Was that the case?
That is what I heard, but I was not on that part of the scene. There were several things going on at once. There was the fertilizer plant, and I was upwind from that, but closer to that. Then you had the intermediate school that was on fire, and then you had the nursing home and the apartment. And all of these are, you have to go around them to get to them. You know what I mean? You can't, there were different parts of the scene. So there were different people at different parts of the scene and helping in different ways, getting them to that common area, which would be the football field.
And because this, the destruction was so widespread, covering 5 blocks from what I understand, of course, that took a lot of coordination and a lot of folks like yourself who had to fearlessly rush in there and help, and I'm sure people appreciate that so much, Bill.
There are, I can't even, I mean, there were 6 choppers in the air just right off the bat, and just we moved the command. They moved the command center to another part of town, a safer part of town, and there are just, I don't know, hundreds, maybe thousands of emergency vehicles and people here, professionals helping out. They'll get it under control, but we are concerned because the winds are due to shift out of the north at about between 6 and 7 in the morning, and that will create, if we don't get it under control, that will create a possible hazard for the rest of the town. The incident is on the north side of town, and the wind was blowing from the south to the north at the time very, very strongly. And that's the concern, is that hopefully they can get it under control before it shifts back and heads back the other way.
And so I understand there are still flames happening as we speak.
Yes.
We did hear some good news, at least from firefighters, that as of at least an hour ago, the flames were controlled. Of course, that doesn't mean they were put out. And as you just mentioned, anything can happen when the weather changes.
Right. And I think it is definitely in good hands. But I'm sure they will keep a cautious eye on it until they get it.
Bill, where are you at now, Bill?
I am back over on the south side of town. I live on the south side of town, and that's where I am right this moment. I just came in for the interview.
And you are being allowed to stay at your home tonight?
Yes, and we do have. I know it reports that electricity has been cut to the town, and there parts of the electricity. Parts of the town they'll still have electricity, and we still do it. That's just part of town. West is it's probably I'd say almost a 2-mile long town. It's fairly narrow, but it's very long. And this occurred over on the north side of town. So at this point, the south side of town is relatively unaffected.
Well, being a longtime resident of West, talk about the importance of this fertilizer plant. I mean, was it a major employer, and did you know of any issues, perhaps safety concerns with it?
I didn't know of any, and I have not lived in West that long. I've been here about 6 years, but I did not know of any concerns. I'm sure. I don't, other than that it was relatively close to some of the residential and school areas. And actually, I think the fertilizer plant had been there for many years, and I think the town kind of built around it.
Right, since the 1950s, from what I've learned.
Right.
As far as where you are at now, do you smell any chemicals in the air or feel endangered in any way?
No, not now. But that's the concern, is when the wind shifts back out, that could be a possibility.
Well, Bill, what do you do now? I mean, you've just seen this devastation, struck by this suffering, and you were there, seeing some of the worst of it. What's going through your head?
Oh, your thoughts and prayers are, of course, with the families, because there are going to be quite a few people affected by this, and so it's a very tight-knit community, and a lot of the people have been here all their lives, and a lot are related, and it's going to have a huge ripple effect. It's going to be it's a sad deal, but it's also a strong community, and we'll go forward.
In your years as a first responder, I mean, could you ever have prepared for this evening?
No, no, I don't think so. I mean, you do prepare for it, and you think you are, but it's almost surreal. It definitely looks as close to a war zone that I've ever seen.
Well, Bill, I hope you do rest tonight. Thank you so much for the work you've done. I'm sure everyone in West extend their full appreciation to you and all the first responders who have risked so much to help.
It's been a huge team effort.
All right.
Thanks for your interest and thought.
Thank you for your time, Bill. And we just got word now that our correspondent on the ground there, John Salazar, can join us live. There he is at a media staging center. John, can you shed some light on what's going on where you're at?
Yeah, Heidi, I want to give you some of the latest information that we received from DPS not too long ago. A DPS public information officer said that no more help is needed. This place is saturated not only with volunteers that have showed up to help out in the aftermath of the massive explosion, but also emergency personnel. They've got plenty of firefighters and law enforcement in the area. Also, all the gas is shut down in the area as we speak for further precaution, as we know that the fertilizer is still smoldering at the fertilizer plant, and there's a massive search and rescue that is ongoing door to door, according to DPS. Now, another interesting footnote that we heard just moments ago via email, that this massive explosion registered a 2.1 on the Richter scale, an incredible blast that was able to get picked up by scientists. Now, we were able to speak to a local reverend earlier that said he saw this entire thing envelop, as well as what the DPS trooper saw once he went inside the location. Take a listen.
And you can just see this big fire, and then all of a sudden it dies down, and then all of a sudden it goes back up, and then you just see the big explosion. Everybody started running, kind of like ducking, just shook the ground. My daughter, she lived about 2 blocks over. We goes over, and her house is just demolished. Her pickup is demolished. Everything is demolished over there.
I can tell you I was there. I walked through the blast area. I searched some houses earlier tonight. Massive, just like Iraq, just like the Murray building in Oklahoma City.
Just looked just like a war zone. Never seen nothing like it in my life except on television. It's like a war zone, you know. It's very shocking, very shocking.
Yeah, the daughter of that reverend is also is on the local school board, the West School Board. That gentleman said that his daughter's house is completely blown up, and it won't be until daylight until we can get a first-hand look of just the damage that has occurred. And now standing with me are a couple of Baylor students that heard about the accident and decided to drive in from Waco to help out. Tell me what you guys saw once you made it inside of West.
We came in and we just saw ambulances and fire trucks and responder units everywhere, and people, and it was complete chaos, and you just see the devastation and it's just mayhem, absolute mayhem.
You guys were able to make it close to the nursing home that was damaged. What can you say about the nursing home?
Well, basically, whenever we got to the safe zone right over here, you just saw just wheelchairs after wheelchairs just full of, elderly men and women just bandaged up or just not in good health, and but a lot of people were there to take care of them, so that was great.
You guys were helping out hands-on. Tell us what kind of assistance you guys were able to apply.
We came in, we didn't really know where to go at first, and so we went to the nearest place we could go to, which was the Salvation Army truck, and we came in and they just said, what you need to do is just get water to these people and food, and so we went out and passed water to the people, some of the victims, and of course some of the responders and stuff like that, because they've been on their feet, for several hours here working, so I'm pretty tired.
DPS has told us that there are hundreds of people that have been injured because of the explosion. What can you say about the injuries that you witnessed firsthand?
We mostly, like he said, my friend Eric, there were a lot of people, elderly people, but there were some people obviously with head bandages and stuff, and there was a woman with a smock on, it was covered with blood, a nurse or something like that. She obviously hadn't been injured, but there, injuries, and there's blood from the injuries and stuff, and it just, there were some people being wheeled out on stretchers and stuff, and they had a triage unit with IVs set up almost like a MASH unit, something you'd find in a war zone.
Can you tell us about some of the damage that you saw to some of the buildings? We're hearing that many of the buildings within about a 5-block radius were completely leveled. What is it that you guys saw as far as damage?
Again, we were in the safe zone, so we were about 2 to 3 miles out from the actual site of the explosion. And technically, we didn't actually see any of the buildings or anything, but we definitely saw the aftermath of what happened.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time, and we can consider you guys heroes for jumping into the middle of this and trying to help out your neighbor in a time of need. Again, these Baylor students came in after hearing the news that there was almost complete devastation in the small downtown of West. Again, many houses within about a 5-block radius have been leveled, according to people that have seen it. That trooper said that it looked like Iraq. It looked like a bomb had went off, and the reverend that we spoke to also saying that his own daughter, that is a member of the local school board, lost her home and her vehicle. So it'll be first light before we get a chance to actually look at it firsthand, Heidi.